how do you choose your team? Based on what?
Well, I suppose honestly that it tends to be gut feel more than anything else. So when I interview somebody, my interview question is always the same. It's
What do you ask?
I said, tell me the story of your life and the decisions that you made along the way and why you made them. And then and also tell me about some of the most difficult problems you worked on and how you solved them. And that question I think is very important, because the people that really solve the problem, they know exactly how they solved it. They know the little details. And the people that pretended to solve the problem, they can maybe go one level and then they get stuck. Well, getting the right people is extremely important. And I actually interview everyone at SpaceX personally. And we're a 500-person company, so that's a lot of interviews. What do you look for? What do I look for? It depends on the task. It's different. I'm not necessarily looking for someone who's has brilliant analytical ability if their job is going to be assembling hardware. But I think generally I look for a positive attitude, and are they easy to work with? Are people going to like working with them? It's very important to like the people you work with. Otherwise, your job is going to be quite miserable. So that's generally where, if I say where sort of the hiring mistakes that I've made in the past, it's been just as I said, it's looking too much at their intellectual capability alone, and not on how they affect those around them. What really matters is for someone's contribution to a company is how they are as an individual and how they affect others around them. I mean, you could say it's also analogous to a sports team. If someone, the best person on the team is not necessarily the one who scores the most goals. It could be the person who assists in the most goals. And if there's one person on the team who's just wants the ball all the time, just wants to kick it at the goal, that can actually be detrimental. So it is important to weigh personality and just are they going to be a good person, and what people like working with them, and that kind of thing. It does make a difference. When I interview somebody, I really just ask them to tell me the story of their career and what are some of the tougher problems that they dealt with, how they dealt with those, and how they made decisions at key transition points. And usually that's enough for me to get a very good gut feel about someone. And what I'm really looking for is evidence of exceptional ability. Mm-hmm. So did they face really difficult problems and overcome them? And then of course you want to make sure that if there was some significant accomplishment, were they really responsible, or was somebody else more responsible? And usually the person who's had to struggle with the problem, they really understand it. They don't forget. Yeah. If it was very difficult. So you can ask them very detailed questions about it, and they'll know the answer. Whereas the person who was not truly responsible for that accomplishment will not know the details. There's no need even to have a college degree at all, or even high school. If somebody graduated from a great university, that may be an indication that they will be capable of great things, but it's not necessarily the case. As far as R&D is concerned, we hire great engineers as fast as we can find them. So it's not that easy to find. But I should say, great engineers with the sort of the right mindset and everything. We hire at the maximum rate that we can find people that we think would really be an asset to the team. So there's no limitation on that. You hire people, or really what you're trying to do when you hire people, that just means you're convincing people to join you in the endeavor. You should hire people that are also passionate about what you're doing. So it's not just that they're not just there for the salary. They really need to care about what they're doing, and then they will stay during the dark times.
Generally, my advice or my recommendation would really be spend less time on finance, spend less time in conference rooms, less time on PowerPoint, and more time just trying to make your product as amazing as possible. I think there might be too many MBAs running companies. There's the MBAization of America, which I think is maybe not that great. There should be more focus on the product, the service itself, less time on board meetings, less time on financials. The financials, what's the point of a company at all? Why even have companies? It's like a company is an assembly of people gathered together to create a product or service and deliver that product or service. And sometimes people lose sight of that. A company has no value in and of itself. It only has value to the degree that it is an effective allocator of resources to create goods and services that are of greater value than the cost of the inputs. This thing we call profit should just mean over time that the value of the output is worth more than the inputs. Earnestly would recommend to anyone listening, just spend less time in meeting rooms, less time on PowerPoint presentations, less time on a spreadsheet, and more time on the factory floor, more time with customers. And obviously a lot of people out there are already doing that, but I would just urge people to say hey, step back a second and say, is your product as awesome as it could be? Probably not. What could you do to make it great? If people think about innovation, maybe it has to be breakthrough innovation. I don't think it necessarily has to be breakthrough innovation. It's just make your product better. This is the thing that really matters.
In expectation of innovation, the compensation structure must reflect that. There must also be an allowance for failure, because if you are trying something new, necessarily that there's some chance it will not work. So if you punish people too much for failure, then they will respond accordingly, and the innovation you will get will be very incrementalist. Nobody's going to try anything bold for fear of getting fired or being, punished in some way. So there must be the risk reward must be balanced, and favor taking bold moves. Otherwise, it will not happen.
I think it is learnable. Step number one would be try. and have you tried? And have you tried hard? And if you haven't tried hard, try hard. I think it is learnable. Basically, just be an absolute perfectionist about the product that you make, the service that's provided. Seek negative feedback from all quarters, from customers, from people who aren't customers. Hey, okay, how can we make this better? It's absolutely learnable. If you find yourself spending a lot of time getting presentations and reviewing spreadsheets, you're barking up the wrong tree. That's the effect, not the cause. Get out there on the factory floor, get out there in the stores, talk to customers, think about what would you love to have. Oh, and sometimes I think, and I've had this conversation at Tesla a few times, we try to think, we don't love this product, but we think others will love it. That's not really how it works. If you don't love it, don't expect others will either.